Have you ever wondered how a bite of an apple actually turns into the energy that powers your thoughts, your muscles, your every move? Well, it's not magic. It's metabolism. And it's basically a perfectly balanced, super high-stakes economy running inside every single one of your cells. Understanding its rules? That's the key to understanding life itself.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We're going to break down this whole cellular economy into 4 key parts. First up, we'll get a solid definition of what metabolism actually is. Then we're going to map out the metabolic superhighways that pretty much all nutrients have to travel down. After that, we'll meet the real currencies and couriers of cellular energy. And finally, we'll see how the cell masterfully regulates this entire process to keep it from turning into total chaos.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. What are we really talking about when we say the word metabolism? You know, it's a word we hear all the time, but the reality is so much more fascinating than just how fast you burn calories.
So the word itself actually comes from the Greek metabole, which just means to change. And honestly, that's the perfect description. It is the sum total of every single chemical change happening inside a cell to keep it alive. It's this constant, dynamic process of transformation that is really the essence of what it means to be a living thing.
Now, right from the get-go, life on this planet is split into 2 major teams, and it's all based on their metabolic strategy. First, you have the autotrophs, the self-feeders. Just think of plants. They are the ultimate producers, right? They grab energy from sunlight and simple stuff from the environment to build everything they need from scratch. And then there's us, the heterotrophs, the other feeders. We can't do that. We have to eat, relying on the complex molecules that autotrophs built to fuel our own growth and our own energy needs.
And inside every single organism, metabolism has these 2 opposing yet totally complementary functions. On one side, you've got catabolism. This is the demolition crew. Catabolic reactions take big, energy-rich molecules from food and break them down into simple building blocks. And this process releases a bunch of stored energy. Then, on the other side, you have anabolism. This is the construction crew. Anabolic reactions take those simple building blocks and use that energy to build all the complex stuff our cells need, like proteins and DNA. It's this beautiful, continuous cycle of breaking down and building back up.
You know, with thousands of different reactions all happening at once, you might think metabolism is just this chaotic mess of chemical traffic. But it's actually the complete opposite. It's an incredibly organized system of pathways, almost like a perfectly designed network of superhighways.
Okay, so here's the crucial point. Catabolism is a convergent process, and this is just brilliantly efficient. It doesn't matter what you start with, carbs, fats, proteins, the breakdown pathways all funnel them towards one central hub. It's like all these different local roads merging onto one main interstate. And where does that interstate lead? Directly to the cell's main power plant, the citric acid cycle.
So what's the molecule sitting right at the center of this huge metabolic traffic interchange? It's a molecule called acetyl coenzyme A, or acetyl-CoA for short. This little guy is the gatekeeper. Think of it as the final toll booth you have to pass through to get on to the main energy highway. It's the one essential intermediate that connects the breakdown of almost all of our food to the major energy extracting machinery of the cell. Bottom line, if a nutrient wants to be fully converted to energy, it absolutely has to become acetyl-CoA first. Its role here is just massive.
So we have this superhighway system. But what powers it? You know, what are the rules of the road? Well, this brings us to the physics and the finance of the cell. Bioenergetics is governed by the fundamental laws of the universe, and it relies on some really specific, fascinating molecules to move energy around.
And this right here is the most important rule of all. Living cells, just like everything else in the universe, have to obey the laws of thermodynamics. The first law tells us that energy can't be created or destroyed, so our cells aren't just pulling energy out of thin air. They're master energy transducers. They're just converting the chemical energy locked away in the bonds of our food into other forms they can actually use, like motion, heat, or electrical power.
So how does the cell actually store and spend all this converted energy? It uses a universal energy currency called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. The easiest way to think about ATP is as the cell's rechargeable dollar bill. It's a naturally unstable molecule, so when one of its high-energy bonds gets broken, it releases a burst of usable energy that can immediately power some kind of cellular work. Building up ATP stores energy, breaking it down releases it. It's simple, elegant, and incredibly effective.
Now, if ATP is the cash, then molecules like NAD+ and FAD are kind of like the armored trucks. During catabolism, as we're breaking food down, high-energy electrons get stripped away. NAD+ and FAD act like electron taxis, picking them up and shuttling them over to the final stage of energy production. But look at this table. They're different, and this is the key. NAD+ is a coenzyme. It binds weakly, does its job, and then pops right off the enzyme. That mobility is its superpower. It lets it connect two totally different, physically separate pathways. FAD, on the other hand, is a prosthetic group, which means it's literally bolted onto its enzyme permanently. This makes it perfect for specific, localized handoffs, where electrons just need to be passed directly. It's a brilliant design difference that gives the cell incredible flexibility.
And here's a really cool little detail that has turned out to be a huge deal in biological research. The full form of NAD+, called NADH, has this unique property. It absorbs light really strongly at a specific wavelength, 340 nanometers, while the empty form NAD+ doesn't. Now, this sounds like a small thing, but it is unbelievably powerful. It means scientists can literally put a sample in a machine, shine a light at 340 nanometers, and just watch metabolism happen in real time by tracking that change in absorbance. It's a simple, elegant window right into the cell's engine room.
Okay, so we've got this incredibly complex network. Thousands of reactions, converting energy, carrying energy, spending energy. How on earth does the cell keep all of this from just descending into absolute chaos? Well, the answer is through multiple layers of really exquisite regulation and control.
So cells basically have four main strategies to manage their economy. They can directly control the enzymes that are already there, flipping them on or off like a light switch. They can control how many enzymes there are by just making more or less of them. They respond to body-wide signals through hormones like insulin and glucagon, which tell the whole system whether to store fuel or burn it. And finally, they use compartmentalization. This is brilliant. They physically separate competing pathways into different parts of the cell, so you don't get wasteful situations like building fat and breaking down fat at the exact same time in the same place. But maybe the most fundamental control of all is this beautifully simple supply and demand feedback loop. The cell is constantly checking its energy charge. You can just think of it like checking the balance in its bank account. It's looking at the ratio of high-energy ATP to its spent, lower-energy forms ADP and AMP. If that ratio is high, meaning the cell is rich in ATP, that's a signal to the energy-producing pathways to slow down. Why make more when you're already wealthy, right? But if that ratio drops and the cell is energy poor, that's a powerful signal for the production lines to fire up at full speed. It's a perfect self-regulating system that ensures the cell makes exactly what it needs, precisely when it needs it. So, as we've seen, metabolism isn't just some random list of chemical reactions you'd find in a textbook. It's a living, breathing symphony of pathways, currencies, and controls all working together in breathtaking harmony. Which leaves us with one final and really crucial question to think about. In a system this interconnected and this finely tuned, what are the cascading consequences when just one single instrument goes out of tune?